afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Girl Get Up podcast. And this is the podcast where I share my stories. I bring my guests on. They share their stories, all in hopes that inspires you, the listening audience, to go out and discover your infinite possibilities. Now, today I have a guest. Her name is Ashley P. Ashley, please share with the audience who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Pinkney, Ashley P for short. And I am a mom. I am a survivor. I'm an overcomer. I am more than a conqueror. I am an encourager. What I do is I encourage women to heal and to move on in what life looks like after dealing with grief, after dealing with trauma, after dealing with certain things that you dealt with in life that you may have thinking have disqualified you, or you may be broken beyond repair and cannot come back from. So for me, that is my goal, is to just teach and show women what it looks like and what life looks like on the other side, what rebuilding looks like after the experience. I am a self published author. I just wrote my first book, as you can see in my background screen. It's called The Grief That Made Me.
I
How God
love the cover.
rebuilt, yes, thank you. How God rebuilt what I thought was broken beyond repair. And in this story, I share a lot of what I've experienced throughout my life, starting as a young child, being raised by my grandparents, which is typically a lot of our stories, experiencing losing my brother and the father of my children.
Mm,
On the same night, and having to go through that grief of becoming a single mom and raising my son and my sons and my three sons and my daughter on my own, and now having two grandchildren, being able to be an amazing grandmother and understand experiencing being raised by my grandparents and learning what I learned from them being grandparents, how I'm able to instill that into my grandchildren now. So, just how God just, like the scripture said, what is sent to, meant for your evil, God will definitely turn it around for your good and work it out in your favor. So,
Well, I appreciate you choosing the Girl Get Up platform to tell your story. So let's take the audience on a journey to understanding who Ashley P is, because to understand the grief that comes with losing your brother or sibling, you got to kind of understand the dynamics growing up. Could you share with the audience what childhood experiences shaped those pivotal moments for you, and the family dynamic and that relationship that you've built with your brother and other siblings?
absolutely. So it's crazy. I'm an only child, but I'm also the oldest child. But I'm adopted by my grandparents, which also makes me the youngest child.
Okay.
So, the dynamic with my brother, he was my biological brother. We all had the same biological mom. Me, made me the oldest of four. Me, him, my sister, and then my youngest brother, and he and I were closest in age. So, he was my best friend. We did everything together. We were in school together. We were, we were all close in age, but he and I were the closest. So, he kept all my secrets. I kept all his, that was my partner in crime. I was the wingman. I was the, what do you need me to say? What do you need me to do? And he was the same for me. But he and the father of my children were also really, really good friends and the best friends. So yeah, so the dynamic growing up was pretty much that. We were all pretty much a close-knit family, and it was so many of us. Um but we were just very, very, very close. And so, like I said, he was my best friend. And even though I was raised by, my maternal grandparents, we shared the same biological mom. So, I saw him all the time. We spent time together all the time. It wasn't, as far as the relationship with my siblings, it wasn't that strained. So we had a great relationship. So when losing him, it was hard because I lost him and the father of my children at the same time. And for a long time, it was difficult for me to process it at all, let
Mhm.
alone have to process both at the same time. So it was like I only can really focus on the fact that I have to raise these children by myself. So it took some years before I was really like, I would miss my brother, but it took some years before I really got to the acceptance of the point where I was just like, my brother is really gone. Like, that was my dog. That was my best friend, like when I have those moments, when I reminisce on the good times, and I'm just like, I remember this or I remember that. And it's like, it really hits. Like, there's a lot of time that's went by that he hasn't been here. And it's like the impact that I kind of suppressed and I didn't really realize had taken on my life and the way that I was expressing it or showing it, until I began to properly heal.
So what's amazing to me is that I learned this morning, you and I are both from the DMV.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know now, I don't know how long it's been since you lost your brother, but being from this area, there's some great things. And then there's also the not so great things about this area. But it's still home, I
Yeah.
mean, but were there, and share only what you feel comfortable with, but what was the environment like? Was it like that battle between the streets and trying to, you know, the right side of the street and the wrong side of the street, if that makes sense?
So what's crazy is, no, they
Okay,
they caught a ride to a party.
that's it.
They caught a ride to a party. They caught a
Wow.
ride to a party. Um, and they were sitting in the car in the parking lot when the shots were fired, and they caught strays.
Oh my gosh.
They were under the impression that they were just catching a ride to a party. um, yep. It was all, and then I had to deal with it being public and, in the news, and wanting to protect my children because I did not tell my children what happened. And then someone decided to tell them and took the opportunity away from me. And they came home with so many questions. And I'm already dealing with having to try to explain and answer these questions already about, why he's gone and how, and all of these things. And so now I have to explain why would someone do something like this, why would this happen, so it was it was a lot. It was definitely a lot, but no, everybody loved them. They were just two guys, like they were just those kind of guys, like everybody, they were cool with everybody. Everybody loved them. They had giving hearts. They were the best of friends. They were loyal. So it was just, yeah, wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately.
That was the background of the book. Now, as the self published author of The Grief That Made Me, now that we have a little bit of background, let's talk about the book. What do you share in the book? What inspired the memoir? I know at some point on your healing journey, you decided that you wanted to share this story. What was that?
To be honest with you, um, I hit an extreme roadblock where I felt that now that my children were adults and they were grown, I didn't really have a purpose anymore in life. I'm like, they're out on their own. They work. My daughter has started her family. My son has started a family. I my youngest will be 20 and going to the National Guard soon. I'm pretty much, I'm like, what do I do now? Because I had surrounded my life around being a parent, to keep me from going over the deep end and crossing a line that I didn't want to cross. And I ended up attempting to cross that line. And in that moment, while I'm getting treatment and, God is reviving me and I'm in the hospital and I'm away from my family and I'm really processing what's taking place, I can really hear God dealing with me. And I had to it wasn't that I wasn't being honest with God, I wasn't being honest with myself. So I
Mm,
really, and as big as I am on accountability, I wasn't being 100% accountable with myself. So I really had to sit in that moment when I was like, literally, there was nobody around. I couldn't use any excuse or distraction of anything that was going on because it was literally just me and God in that moment. And so he was just talking to me, and I really had to understand that he has always been there. It has been difficult, but when I really was able to look back and take inventory, I was so consumed with grief and depression that I didn't even have the willingness to want to heal because it just had become so normal to me. And I had gotten so in such a dark place that he had to literally pull me out. Like, what are you doing? Are you
yeah.
not going to be grateful for what it is that I've blessed you with? And I'm like thinking about it, like he's gone, but it's like, his legacy and the fact that I'm the only woman that has his children.
Mm,
I don't have any outside children. And so now my son has a son that is named after him, and that's his third generation, and the promises that God has given me, and the way that even though it wasn't easy, that at this age that I am and the age that they are in their careers, they are all working, they are, they could be doing a lot of different things. So, and then he started dealing with me also, and just me having to take accountability with the fact that when I was younger, I was very rebellious. I was very stubborn. I'm a PK. So it's not that I didn't know any better, but I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And my motto was, well, I'll just deal with it. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. And so he's like, well, now we're at that bridge. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And so it's like, you, we like to give the devil a lot of credit because it takes away from us having to take accountability for some of the decisions that we chose to make. So that's another part that I touch on in the book also, is just the chapter is literally called Disobedience Got Me Here. So, and just about how there are some decisions that I make, but even in taking accountability, it's not self betrayal, it's not self reduction, it's not lack of self love because of that. Like, I didn't have to feel ashamed that the God, I have to be honest with God and say, yes, I did do this, and this is the result of that. Or, yes, this really did hurt me more than I'm willing to allow the world to see, but I can't hide it from you any longer. Like, the things that I don't want to say out loud that are secretly buried in my heart, I have to give to you.
Mm,
And that's literally what the book is about. Just how everything that I experienced in life, sexual assault, abandonment, um, abuse, like I said, being disobedient, lacking accountability, all of those lessons, how I felt like I was so broken beyond repair that I just didn't have felt like I have a purpose any longer. And he literally showed me that broken crayons still color.
I know that's right.
So when I got to the moment where I had nothing left, I was completely depleted. One time my brother told me there will be a day when you will officially be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And back then I was like, I am right now. And I didn't get it.
And
I had
understand
that
it.
moment, I was like, oh, okay, this is what he was talking about. And now that I've had that personal encounter, I have no excuse. I cannot go back. I cannot regress. My life literally depends on it. And so stepping out on fear of um the imposter syndrome, and just
Yes.
feeling like I'm not worthy, and him showing like, well, how can you be an imposter of a life that I designed and orchestrated for you to live? You can't imposter your own life. So I was
Love that.
like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And so here we are, and what better way? I mean, just I'm honored. Like I said, I was doing my research. I'm like, oh my goodness. And she's a DMV girly. So such a great platform to tell and share my story the first time, So I'm really, really excited. I really am. And I thank you again for sharing your platform with me. But yes, that's what the book is about.
You're most welcome. Now, I want to ask you because through all of that and reading up about you, you said something so key. something that is very prevalent in my own personal life. So I'm going to ask you this. Define surrender.
Woo. So for me, and it's a ongoing battle, I promise you. um my biggest issue is letting go of what I cannot control.
Yes.
So for me, surrender is God saying, don't pick and choose what you're allowing me to have and handle. I was fearful of what was on the other side because of what I had already experienced. So for me, the surrender is letting go and moving in blind faith that whatever you have on the other side is better than what I can create for myself because I've already tried it and it does not work. So
Mhm.
for me, surrender is just that blind faith and letting him the very and it's like the for me, it most of the time it's like my children or my grandchildren. It's like I trust you with them. But then I have that thing where because they're adults and I'm still learning the transition where I still want to make the decisions and I still want to be able to. And he's like, but you cannot be the God of their life. You have to trust. If I told you to train them up and you can see because they serve in the ministry. My daughter is a Sunday school teacher. My son serves on the audio video ministry and does the YouTube videos. And, so they serve in the ministry and they give back. And he's
Mhm.
like, you have to trust
Mhm.
that I gifted them to you. They don't belong to you, but I gifted them to you. You gave them back to me. You have to trust that my plan for their life is far more better than yours.
And he gave you the evidence.
Yeah, it's just overcoming and letting go of the disappointment of what life has thrown at me to know that even though I've experienced life disappointment, God's plan for my life is still gonna exceed far more than what I have experienced in life itself. And that's what surrender is for me, for sure.
Understandable that it comes from a place of fear,
Yeah.
right? It's understandable because of our experiences as parents. And I understand that because one question that I had asked the older sister of mine, as my now oldest, he's in his 20s now, and I asked her, like, how do you deal with that? Like, as they get older, how do you deal with that? And the one thing she told me that always stuck in my mind was that you have to switch roles. You have to go from a parent to a support role.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me along my journey of being a mother. Yes.
Yeah. That's I love that. I love that. And that's really what it is. It's like now I'm supporting you and navigating you, through your decision making. My daughter called me from work and she was just discussing some things and as badly as I wanted to just I'm like I really want to say do you want me to come there because I can come you want me to come up there but she's an adult now so I have to allow her to handle this as adult so I just I'm praying like Lord please help me because I really just want to go up there but she as she's talking to me I'm in a space where like you said being supportive so instead of instantly wanting to fix it, I'm learning to listen. And as they start to talk it through, they start to work it out on their own. So I'm just listening to her and I'm supporting where she goes and I'm just confirming to her, you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. You're not, that's right, to keep encouraging her as she's still going and going and working this thing out. And so it also feels good to sit back and watch them accomplish things and to see them work things out as adults in real time too. It's like thing, yeah.
Yeah. Because that goes into my next question that I had wanted to ask you because that's part of your transformation.
Yeah.
Could you share those steps? And I know focusing on raising your children was part of that transformation. Could you share how that gave you more gratitude? You're changing that grief and you're transforming it into gratitude.
Yes. Um, honestly, the birth of my granddaughter is
Mhm.
probably what did it the most.
Mhm.
It put life into a different perspective for me when she was born. And it's interesting because I had my episode after she was born. So one
Mhm.
would think, well, but that would be ironic. But um, it was in that moment I was there when she came out. My daughter, um, she has her own testimony, so I don't want to overshare, but it wasn't the greatest experience. And this was during COVID when they had all of these restrictions. So, she's the only girl. And so she's the oldest. And she's like, my mama has to be here. And so my granddaughter came out. I was the first person to experience her and touch her before the doctors and stuff like that. I was able to cut her umbilical cord.
Wow.
And it was just I saw her. I've had my own babies. I've experienced my own nieces and nephews being born, but it was something different
Yeah.
about when she came. Like when I saw her, it was just like there's something about her and in her that is going to change the trajectory of all of our lives. I didn't
Mm.
know how to explain it. It was just something that I could it was like the air left the room and it
Oh,
was
wow.
just me and her for a second. And I was just like, oh, okay. Now it all makes sense. Like,
Mm.
like things that weren't make. I really wish I could just put it into words the way I experienced it in that moment. And from then on, it was just kind of like, okay, okay. And the older she got,
Mm.
the more I was able to see my own growth
Okay.
and how I experience her, how I deal with her as her grandmother versus the space that I was in when I was a young mom and overcome and consumed with grief and overwhelmed and overstimulated and felt like I didn't have a moment to just breathe. So I wasn't, even though I wanted to be emotionally available in these ways, I didn't have the capacity to do it because I didn't have the tools. So now that it's like, the tools that I have. So it's like living witness, like, cause so for so long, the devil would rob me of the tangibles that I didn't realize that it was the intangibles that I needed first. And so when I'm starting to realize the character and the fruit that's being built on the inside, it's a confirmation like, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So it was like, even though I thought that life had diminished me so much. I thought that I was broken beyond repair. I thought that I was buried, you
Mm.
know. I thought that I was done, but in all actuality, I was buried, but I was a seed that was buried. I was planted. I wasn't buried, but I was planted. And when the further down the seed is planted, the longer it takes for it to sprout and grow. And so that's just something that I had to learn. And I process things out in real time. So I'm processing out in real time as I'm learning and dealing with my granddaughter and even how my daughter parents my granddaughter. And even in that, like I'm just like, thank you, God. I'm able to see like where the patterns were broken, because even in my trauma and even in my grief, there were certain things that I was like, I'm not doing this. Like I understand this is how it ran in the bloodline, but this is where it stops. I'm not doing this, we're not doing it. And so to see that magnified in my children
Yeah.
is a blessing. The way that the patience she has with her, you know what I'm saying? The way that she communicates with her, the way that my granddaughter feels seen and not just only heard or, just put in your place and you're not able to express yourself in a respectful manner. It's a blessing. It feels good. So yeah, it's amazing the transformation of, like you said, the from the trauma to a place of gratitude.
What do you hope readers get or gain from reading the book, The Grief That Made?
What I want them to take away from it more than anything is that we serve a redeeming God. There is nothing that you can do that can disqualify you in the eyes of God if you allow Him. Now, hear me clear. If you allow Him, if you allow Him to come into your life, the very thing that you think and believe disqualifies you the most is what he wants and can and will use the most to redeem you and revive you. I know. I am a living witness of it. I have experienced homelessness with my children. I have experienced eviction. I have experienced all of the things. I turned 40 this year and I had to move in with my parents a month before my 40th birthday. And on my 40th birthday, any other time I would have crashed out. Like, I can't believe this. On my 40th birthday, I was snowed in. I spent the day thanking God that I made it to the other side. To be 40 and to say, I made it to 40, I have two beautiful grandchildren. I have four grown adult children that got across the finish line, that are figuring out life on their own, that now take care of me. I struggled, like, and now are in a position to take care of me. Like, I said I wasn't gonna cry. No, I'm crying. No, because I said I was not gonna cry. I'm not cry on camera. But to just be like, thank you, God. To
Yeah.
to think that to know that I was so depressed that I didn't value my own life. And even in that, he spared me through the doctors, through the nurses, through all of the people that I came encounter with, to experiencing different things, knowing that trying to save my family and him being a judge and a lawyer and the jury and all of these things, and I'm knowing that I'm guilty, but he made me innocent. And you know what I'm saying? Like, to know these things, I'm telling you, whatever it is that you think has broken you so is the thing that you can surrender and release him. I know you are afraid of what is on the other side because of disappointment, but disappointment derives from us not receiving what we think that God should give us, not what he knows that we deserve. And sometimes what we think that he should give us is less than what he knows we deserve.
I was just about to ask you, so are you saying that we need to remove any type of expectations that we think we have over our lives and allow for God to step in?
Because he says, I know the plans that I have for your life, plans to prosper you, not to harm you. My harm was self inflicted from decisions that I chose to make. When I choose to follow him and be obedient, because obedience is better than sacrifice. I gave up a lot thinking,
Mm-hmm.
well, I gave this stuff up. Why isn't anything happening? But I gave it up and I wasn't being obedient. Being obedient and surrendering. I promise you. Ask me how I know. Anybody that watches this podcast, you can find me on social media. You can ask me whatever you want to ask me. I promise you, I will tell you. I'm transparent. I live a private life, but I'm very transparent. So I'm not. I am a. That's how I know type of person. I don't speak from speculation or textbook. I literally speak from lived experience. If I haven't experienced it, I don't really necessarily have a way in because I haven't experienced it. But I know what it's like to lose a spouse. I know what it's like to lose a sibling. You know, I was raised by my grandparents during the pandemic. I lost my first grandparent. I was 35 years old when I lost my first grandparent, and I wasn't even able to grieve her or process that. I've been through all of those things. I've been through, the troubles of, teenage children and the transitioning of them, coming into their own. And, I'm a single mom by choice and I'm raising three men and I've experienced it all. My daughter's the only girl and she's the firstborn. I've been through that as well. I'm the firstborn girl. The mom daughter, whatever
The
you can
mom
think
daughter
of, I
dynamic.
promise you, The enemy will use that because you can see it with your natural eye as a blinder of what God is trying to do for you in the spirit. So it's no, there was no blueprint when I experienced this. I didn't know, I only knew one other girl. And like I said, there was no blueprint for how to overcome or what to do afterward.
Let me ask you this because you said there's no blueprint, but you, number one, had to walk a process of healing. What were those steps? Like if you had to create a framework from what your healing journey looked like, what would you say that was?
I stayed in the wilderness longer than I was supposed to.
Mhm.
Um, I had multiple opportunities to come out of the dysfunction, but because I could not tangibly feel or see anything on the other side that felt remotely close to normal, dysfunction became what was normal. If there was no dysfunction, it was not normal. A a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. I was back and forth, and it got to the point where it's God was like, "You cannot keep riding on grace like this." And I couldn't hear from him for a while, and I was tortured. And so then I started faithing it and faking it, trying to make it, and it because of decisions I had made. And so I crashed out and I literally attempted to take my own life. And I'll never forget my son. It was like the spirit of the Lord had taken over my son, and he was speaking in such an authoritative way. What are you doing? And I kept saying, I'm so sorry I ruined you guys' life. And he said, what are you talking about? I lived a good life. I've lived a great life. I live a good life. Why are you disrespecting God like this? It was almost like he was outside of himself.
Yes.
And when I have the conversation with him, he does not remember. And that's how I know this is it. And you can't go back. And I'm not saying that I have it all together because I don't. I still have vices. I still have struggles. I still have my shortcomings, as we all do, and we all will until we meet glory. But the intention of my heart has now changed. I want to be healed.
Does that change your day to day? Do you make sure that you find time in your day to pray or to journal or to, yeah, what does that look like?
I'm glad you asked that. I had joined a group in my church group called the Same Group, Shifting All Mental Experiences. They we do a prayer call every morning, Monday through Friday. In this season of my life, I'm very intentional about showing up for that, and I use that as prayer time and devotional time and fellowship time outside of just the regular Sunday routine of going to church to keep me connected and to keep me reminded. And so it's the first thing in the morning. It's a great way to start my day. I'm listening and interacting while also, getting my granddaughter ready for school and helping out, with my kids. So it just works out. And I'm just like, thank you, God, because, even in that, I'm able to worship and I'm on the prayer call and I'm doing the devotion and all of those things while I'm still getting my daughter. So in my mind, the way I'm seeing that, I'm still devoting my time as I'm helping my daughter, helping my grandchildren to you. I listen to a lot of worship music. I'm an old school PK girl though, so I like a lot of the old gospel hits. So I walk. I like to walk a lot. So while I'm walking, I meditate, I pray. Sometimes I'm just completely quiet and I'm just like, God, download. I just want to hear. I don't even want to say anything. I just want to hear. And most days, I'm not even going to lie to you, especially since I've turned 40. Like life has changed so much. Um, I find myself like daydreaming or thinking back about like on moments when I'm like, I was really, and I just randomly will just cry and not like because I'm sad, but because I'm just like this is really happening. Like I remember praying and crying for days like this, but not believing that I would experience it.
Mm,
So once I started to believe what I was praying for, you know, to me, worry is the equivalency that worship to the devil that worship is to God.
mm.
So
Yeah.
if I'm praying and asking, but I'm not believing that he would do it for me, because I went through a season where I never not questioned if God, it was too much evidence in my life from a child to for me to not know that he was real. I just didn't think he was checking for me. When I got to be real honest with him, that's when he really could start doing the work on the inside of me because I was willing and ready and allowing, ready for him to do so. And healing hurts. Whoever said it doesn't, they lied. It hurts, people. It's worth it, but it hurts.
Yeah. Because it goes back to what you were saying. You've said this quite a few times. When you go down to the root, it shows you your choices and your decisions. And
Yes.
you have to come to terms and you have to come to peace with that and know that you made that decision or that
Mhm.
choice in your life because it was something that you were supposed to learn on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, it's like that's that aha moment that you can then go and talk to and teach other people who are at that very same crossroads. Give them your experience, and hopefully that will give them the direction to make the decisions that they need to make. That said, you are the owner of Ashley Pinkney Enterprises.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about how it's like seeing as though you have a brand that is rooted in faith. How does that shape the way that you approach personal development?
I spend a lot of self reflecting time. I also surround myself with people that are more seasoned and
Mhm.
more experienced and have more wisdom in certain areas of their life because iron sharpens iron. And I never want to be at that point where, even if I'm in a position to help and teach others, I never want to be at that point where I'm not still able to learn. I
Yes.
never want to be such a high and mighty leader. I never want to come off as that type of person. So I operate in humility as well. I'm learning not to over filter myself. Um,
Okay.
I don't have to overshare, but I'm learning that I don't have to filter myself down so much so in my experience and what God has brought me through and who he says that I am to make other people comfortable. It's
Mm.
not to make other people uncomfortable intentionally either. This is about growth. And
Right.
so growth challenges everyone. So I in my personal development more than anything is just asking God to give me the heart of humility because no only man can see the outside, God, only God can see the heart. And on the inside is where the most damage and the most things have been done. So it's a lot of us walking around silently suffering in those ways. And so part of my personal growth also is using my voice in a way that God wants my voice to be used.
In your business, Ashley Pinkney Enterprises, you have several pillars, I guess is I could say it that way, is to which you help serve potential customers. That's your personal development, your faith-based personal development pillar. You have your publishing and you also have coaching.
So that's something that I'm actually starting to venture into.
Okay.
I'm rebuilding my brand altogether, like just from scratch. But yes, that's something that I want to also get into coaching as far as helping. So since I've written like a couple of journals and just like personally shared with like different people that I've known or group members and stuff like that. And so when I wrote my book, I was getting a lot of feedback from people like, "Oh, you wrote a book, you self-published. How did you do it? What was the process and stuff like that? How are you able to tell your story? How did you get it out?" And for me, um that was the same thing that happened with me when I met my coach. Shout out to Lady Ty. She is the bomb, shameless plug. But she got me started, and um she it's so interesting because when she reached out to work out with me, God placed it on her heart. And
Mhm.
so when people were reaching out and they're like, "Oh yeah, what's going on? How did you do it?" A lot of them were, different ladies from the church group that I had joined, or
Okay.
just different people who know me personally, who have seen my development and my growth throughout my life, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you! Like this is amazing." Some people are like, "It's about time," and so the coaching part of it is for me, I attempted to write, start and stop and start and stop for 15 years to tell this story. Yeah, it's been 15 years. The first time God gave me the vision, I ran from it. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. um,
Okay. I'm comfortable about with it.
the vulnerability was terrible. Like at first, I was like, I can't do this. And then also, I wasn't healed. So when I would read the story back to myself, I sounded like I was making myself sound like a victim. And I'm not a victim mentality type of person. So when I read it, it was like, ugh, I don't even like what is this? Like, what did I write? I don't like
Mhm.
the way that this sounds because it makes it sound like, oh, feel sorry for me. This happened to me. And that is not the type of person that
Yeah,
I am. And that's not who God designed me to be. Like, I am a boss. Like,
that's
no,
right.
like I'm, you know, literally during this healing journey, I lied to you not. I turned 40 February 1st. I promise you that day, when I tell you, I spent the whole day shut in the room, crying, blessing, worshiping God, thanking God. I did church virtually, all of the things. And I met with my coach about 2 days later. I did the master class. I used all of the tools, and I promise you, within 3 weeks, my whole book was birthed. It just
Oh,
started
wow.
flowing. That's where the coaching birthed from. Is
Mhm.
also because in who I God uses me to help, because this is not a me thing. Because if it was up to me, I would not be doing this. In who He instructs me to help, it's about promoting healing
Mm.
over anything. And you can't heal without God. Like I said, just learning and helping women to in different areas, because some may want to be poetry, some may want to write a story, some may just need an accountability system or a sounding board or someone that they can just talk to or pray with, or hey, I'm not a therapist, so I'm just not what I'm saying, but just someone that they can relate to, that's like, okay, have you experienced this? Is there, do you have the tools? If you don't have the tools, can you point me in the right direction, of someone that has the tools, or so that's where that is birthed from. Because like I said, healing is more than anything. And when you write from a place of trauma, um I'm not, trauma bonding is not what we do.
It's it's really important that you said that, because that segues into my next question is, because Ashley Pinckney Enterprises focuses on building thought leadership, which was very important distinction when you talked about the healing part. What is the difference between having a story and becoming recognized as a thought leader?
So I think that the difference between having a story and becoming a thought leader.
Me clarify that question. Let's put a
Yeah.
little bit of clarity, but because it's one thing, like you said, the trauma bonding. It's one thing to have a story, but to use your story in a way as to where you are a thought leader or you're positioning yourself as a thought leader, because it has to have some healing in it. It has to give some tools or some things that someone can walk away from.
Yeah.
So that's more of the questions.
Well, and
Sorry.
that's kind of where I was headed with it with my answer too. I was about to say, I think that the difference is everybody has a story.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone uses their story for the betterment, for the
Yes.
betterment of their lives or for the betterment of other people. Some people like being the victim because they like the attention that they get from being the victim.
Mm.
I know because I've been that person before. So, you know, nobody, I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, you're stepping on my toes. I've been there, sis. It's okay. I very transparent. I don't have a problem. I've been there before. So, um, when you get that type of feedback like that, when you can manipulate the story, and make yourself to be the victim, you typically find yourself more on the beneficial receiving end of things.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of times, what people are willing to believe exposes their heart posture in regards to who you are and how they feel about you anyway. And it's interesting that you asked that because I wrote about that in my book also. As long as I saw myself as broken, it was easy for me to justify flying off the handle, or I can't do this because this happened, and I can't because I'm overwhelmed. As long as, I identified as always being financially challenged, as, oh, it's easy to, I can't be out on my own, I have to come back home, I have to, you know what I'm saying. As long as I identified with that. And I think that that is the difference between being a storyteller and a thought provoker, because when you own it and it becomes, this isn't what happened to me, but this is what happened for me. Now you're provoking thought. Now
Mm.
you're presenting it in a way where people want to ask you questions. You leave them wanting more, like, wait, you experienced that? So, because looking at you right now, that's not what I see. So how did you get here?
Yes.
You know, well, how did you get from there to here? And that's the difference. Anybody can tell a story. Everybody has a story. We all have a story. Life is like a thumbprint. I literally wrote this in like one of my journals many years ago. Life is like a thumbprint. None of us have the same thumbprint. It's unique. It's literally specifically designed specifically for us. That's why I don't believe in this whole oversaturated market type of thing. There's a million bread brands, there's a million water bottle brands, there's a million, there's no such thing, because your unique imprint belongs to you. That is what makes you a thought provoker. When you are able to allow God, when you're able to view it as a tool that God is using. So if we change the trajectory and not make it so selfish and make it more selfless, then you'll find yourself in a space where you feel good about serving. Like it's just as simple as that. And that is what thought provoking is.
Yes. Excellent. I love it. So I want to read something first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll ask my last question to you.
Ma'am.
Now, you sent me a little bit of background, and at the end, this stood out to me the most. And it says, and the message I carry is simple but real. You are not too far gone. You are not disqualified. And your story is not a tragedy, it's a reconstruction. What's your vision for women that Ashley Pinkney Enterprises wish to serve? What is that vision? What transformation do you hope that they create in their lives, see, feel, and live?
Broken crayons still color. You are never so broken and disqualified that God cannot use you, because he does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. When we were talking about gratitude and the difference in gratitude, um one thing that I love about living in Maryland is we get to experience all four seasons. That's very rare that you find that in the world. And
Mm,
there are people that only experience the sunshine all the time. But if
mm,
you never went through a storm and didn't know when that storm was going to end, and then when the sun does finally start to shine and those clouds start to roll back and that warmth starts to hit your skin, and that rainbow is in the sky, and it's blue, and you can see those clouds, and the ground is starting to dry up, and you can see the flowers blooming and the fruit growing on the trees. You have a different type of gratitude and appreciation for that. That is what I'm hoping that everybody is able to walk away with. We all have that thing. But whatever that thing is, I promise you, it is not that bad. I want them to feel like they are more than a conqueror,
mm.
because you are. I want them to feel like they are worthy in the eyes of God, because they are. I want them to feel and know confidently that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, because they are. I want them to know that they are more precious than rubies, because they are. Not because I said so, but because that's who God says that we are. And that's when the rebuilding can start. None of us, we are not victims. It did not happen to us, it happened for us, so that we are able to take that and use it and to glorify Him and to bring others in that are experiencing. And that are experiencing it, and the only way that they can even, maybe some people even get an inkling of what it may look like on the other side, is through you, is scrolling past your page, is seeing your post, is seeing your message, is seeing your meme. You know, that's the world we live in today. So with that being said, how do you use this? How, if this is what happened, you're no longer a victim, you are a victor.
Yeah.
So how do you walk in victory?
If anyone has been moved today to work with you on publishing a story that they want to share their story of overcoming, how can they reach out to you?
Okay.
Where can they reach you?
I am in the process of having my website being built. So you can reach me at Ashley P Enterprises at gmail.com.
Okay.
My social is at the hustlin mama underscore. Um, and you, if just following my Instagram, if you want to work with me, you can definitely send me an email. Like I said, the hustling mama right now, that's my personal Instagram. I'm working on, like I said, I'm building certain things in my brand, so you'll see a new page. I'm going to be building a new page separately for my book, just to build on with my publishing, for those who, for my HCP Enterprises publishing, and for those who want to work with me in coaching and helping tell their story and things of that nature. So you'll see those new things up and coming. I have a soft launch for my book that's going to be coming May 30th. It's
Okay.
going to be in Annapolis, Maryland.
Yes,
um
ma'am.
and just, yeah, just be on the lookout, you guys. This just, I'm here. I'm terrible at posting, I will admit that, so I want to let you guys know that right now. I
That's
don't
okay.
post a lot, but I'm getting better at that. um but if you watch this podcast, you'll know. If you talk to me, if you want to have a conversation with me, you'll get a lot more information, a lot more insight, a lot more wisdom, a lot more love. Um, if you see me out in public, speak. I don't bite. I'm very friendly. If I look unapproachable, I promise you, I'm working on that. It's that resting face that I have to work on. I'm approachable. I'm a hugger. I love love. I'm a lover of love. I love to spread love. Um, I love Jesus. I do. If you can't tell that. And just yes, be on the lookout for the book, journals, hopefully more platforms, more speaking
Yes,
engagements.
ma'am. Yes, we
Yes.
speaking. Yes,
I'm gonna start hosting more, engagements and speaking engagements and inviting people on the platform that have different stories that they may want to tell or share and,
yes.
about healing and their journeys, different things, whether it be, addiction, all of the anything. I'm when I say however he sees fit to lead and move me and use me, that is what I'm doing. So thank you so much. Thank you guys.
You hang on. I'm going to send you off the right way, but everyone else, we will see them next episode. Take
Bye.
care, everyone.